Yep. All right on there. Let's just check we're right on Twitch. Bum, bum, bum. And we're live here. Yep. And we're gonna... Right, we got some viewers, so we're on. All right. One sec. Hello, everybody. We doing well? One sec. Good. Boom. On. Any excitement? Let's go. I think. I guess that's what LG, but then like, are those eyes after it? Like, is it like let's get it or whatever? I don't know. I might jump into it like pretty pronto because I mean I'd like to let the chat populate a bit. Oh wow, that would have been really funny. Did I? Is it called time to respond to mass? Oh, it's time to respond to that massive. It does actually occur to me. I don't really. Hello, Lisa. It does occur to me that I don't really put much thought, well, into titles in general, into all the things that matter. Like thumbnails and titles and all that. But like, I don't even put thought into like making sure they're spelled correctly. So I feel like a lot of the time, I do remember actually one time I made a response video to Jammy Dodger, who I haven't made a response video to in ages, but whatever. And I was like, I came up with the idea of the thumbnail saying ignorant and proud, but I wrote ignitant and proud. I put a T in there just randomly for some reason. So yeah, it was ignitant and proud. And it took me ages to realize. Hi ho, Sylvia. So yeah, point being, sometimes I make typos. It's gonna be fun. Yeah. Good news is that see, Lisa's what's it called? Live streams. Literally, I only ever catch like or see just as I'm about to go to bed. And actually, increasingly less so now because I finally got my sleeping pattern like more reasonable. Which is to say, for me, I mean, like I don't know. At some point in my life, I really want to go to I want to go to sleep at like 11 p.m. because I just don't right now. Like for me, an early night is like 12:30, which I don't know. Like I'm not ashamed of being a night owl. It's not bad. It's not the worst thing in the world to be. But then I don't know. There is just this aspect, and I know it's kind of arbitrary, and there's no real reason to say it's superior. But there is something about that whole you go to sleep at 10 and you wake up at 6. Waking up with the sun. But I don't know, whatever. Okay, Lisa's been doing 2 a.m. Yeah, I basically don't sleep in summer. Yeah, that's true for me. Like, I use the summer as an excuse to push back my sleeping schedule. But yeah, I mean the thing is like, I like the idea of having a morning routine, but recently I haven't really been doing the whole morning routine thing. How long does it take for wisdom teeth removal to heal? I don't know, but like, okay, um, I reckon I can get away with showing you my teeth. Uh, 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 it doesn't really work. I wonder if I can zoom in now. Screw it. I got a like I don't know, my wisdom teeth are annoying rather than like a problem, which kind of annoys me. What time do you usually wake up? You know what? I wish there was a time I usually. I guess the time I usually wake up is 9:30. Um, but I don't know. Like I need to, yeah, I need to sort it out to be more consistent. But part of it, whatever, screw it, you know. But um, yeah, like my wisdom teeth. The thing about them is the dentist is like, oh, it's fine, but it might be a problem later. And I'm like, well, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. Like, I'm not really into the whole idea of getting my wisdom teeth taken out, but I'm also kind of like, I would like that. The thing is, no, because there's this thing where my mum, her wisdom teeth are wrapped around a nerve in her jaw, and if she gets her wisdom teeth taken out, it could actually paralyze her jaw. And there's a very good chance because I basically have the same teeth. You know, like my not the same teeth. You know what it means. Like genetically, my teeth kind of come from my mum's side of the family. That I might have that problem too. I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, and obviously, if that's the case, well, what happened with my mum was that like they actually took the teeth out in front of the wisdom teeth. I really see something that would really satisfy me, even though it would probably hurt, is getting like because my wisdom teeth they're all out and they're all fine, but they're all like crooked, and essentially the issue with it is that it's quite difficult to kind of get back there and clean them because they're like crooked and there's like kind of gaps. Like there's like a big gap here, and it's like perfect for food to get in there and kind of nestle in there. So I literally what I do a lot of the time is oh, this is a good example. I have a lot of yogurts, and I'll like kind of break little toothpicks. This is actually a piece of popsicle stick. Um, but like, uh, get in there and just like push it out of it. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, point is that what I've often thought, therefore, is I would like to get kind of my penultimate backwards teeth taken out and then just get like braces to just like line up my wisdom teeth because they're very annoying. The thing is, I don't think I could line them up without getting other teeth taken out because I think the reason they're all over the place is because I got pretty big teeth. Eh, so whatever. Um, I actually do feel like teeth wise though, I'm really not doing too bad. Apparently, the dentist says that my teeth are like super strong, like with the enamel and all that. Um, Anyway, yeah, and like my theory, which you know, I'm not much of a dentist, but my theory is that actually because my teeth are very big, most of the time, like here, like basically every teeth apart my wisdom teeth are like pushed really close together, like they're all like really close together, um, to the extent that I will like break floss in half, like when I'm like it will get caught between them and just snap because my teeth are just so like guillotines. They're just so close together. But my theory is that that's why my enamel's so strong because my teeth are basically under the constant strain of being pushed against each other. Because yeah, apparently my teeth are very strong. That's what he said. Okay, are we gonna get into this? I mean, I really shouldn't be being all casual, having chatting all of that. I mean, boy, I could though. I'm good at that. The thing is, it's not even hot here, which I do like. I do like the fact that I don't know. It's more exciting than America because in America, my understanding is that basically it. Well, I say America. I know people are like, "Oh, it's a massive country," blah blah blah. But whatever. The point is, from what I know of people who I know in America, including of course my fiance, it's basically like in America it gets hot and then it just stays hot for the whole summer. And I kind of prefer it in the UK how it's like, oh, one summer's day it might be 35 degrees, and next it might be 15 degrees, just all over the place. Anyway, okay. let's actually get ready for this. You know what? Yeah, okay. See, I'm also aware of the fact that my YouTube chat disconnected, and I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen. But all right, okay. So let's talk about business. Today we are going to be responding to this Caelan Conrad video series, which totals. I mean, let me tell you how long it totals. So part one is 2 hours and 22 minutes. Okay. And part two, once I've got it up, is going to be 1 hour 52. It's not terrible. And then part three is 1 hour and 17. So, okay. Got shorter as it goes along, which is interesting. But basically, I mean, overall, what's that? It's about 5.5 hours, give or take. Um, so there you go. 5.5 hours of video. And heretofore, the longest video I've responded to was possibly the hour and 20-minute video by Ponderful. I guess I've responded to the J.K. Rowling video by ContraPoints, which is an hour and 30, but that doesn't really count. And at some point, I'm actually just going to respond to that, like, basically, again, because I kind of, like, started responding to it and didn't really get anywhere with it. So, whatever. Okay. Anyway, the point is we're going to be responding to this video by Caelan Conrad, but I don't know. Like, I'm not really sure if I'm going to basically just make it so every single response video that I do from now until we're done is going to be this entire series, because in some sense it's like, why would I stop? You know, like, I might as well just keep watching it until it's done. I will say this, you probably won't be surprised to hear, I'm going to be, one, try to be quite conservative with what I respond to here in this stream, and then two, hopefully be even more conservative with what I edit out, or rather, more liberal with what I edit out, more conservative with what I leave in when it comes to uploading the videos to my main channel. So I don't know, we'll see. I mean, the thing is, there's no way this isn't going to be like insanely long. Like, how can it not? And if it isn't insanely long, then that's just going to be a massive, like, indictment of Caelan Conrad for having made a video so substanceless. Like, if this video is good and has a point, then I should have to spend a long time responding to it. So I'm kind of hoping it doesn't have a point. I do want to say, by the way, on the subject of Caelan Conrad, it's always worth remembering that I've already responded to a Caelan Conrad video. And the video was called TERFs and the Alt-Right. And here's the thing. That video no longer exists. Now, I'm not saying that Caelan Conrad saw my response and realized I totally destroyed the video. But that's definitely what happened. And actually, it's kind of funny now, because, of course, if you search for the... Let me just confirm. I mean, I know... So if you search for, say, Caelan Conrad TERF Alt-Right, then whose videos come up? Mine. Which makes sense, of course, because, like, obviously it's the, so I have thought what you could do if you wanted to be like a memer is you could, if you're talking to a TRA, be like, oh, I love Caelan Conrad. My favorite video by Caelan Conrad is the TERF Alt-Right Connection. Or, TERFs and the Alt-Right is the full name of the video, but I don't know, TERF Alt-Right Connection was a specific bit I responded to, which I thought was especially dumb. But yeah, there you go. So either or, take your pick. But yeah, basically you say that, and then maybe they'll be like, oh, I'll search for this video, and then they search for it, and then Caelan Conrad's video isn't there. All you have is my video debunking Caelan Conrad's video. So I don't know, Caelan, shouldn't have done that. Now, like, what if people decide they want to watch your fantastic video on TERFs and the alt-right? The only video that's going to come up is my video. I mean, my 3 videos that respond to you. So that's fun. And yeah, I will say that video was very bad. It involved a lot of like circumstantial stuff that wasn't really significant, which is kind of, admittedly, is a bit annoying, because obviously the more entertaining thing is when somebody says something that's just wrong. My slight concern is that my slight concern is that, sorry, My slight concern is that a lot of this video will just be Caelan Conrad, like, for example, maybe posting random clips from Facebook groups, like random posts from Facebook groups. And it will be things that I've, like, nobody cares about it. I don't know about it. You know, like, basically not actually engaging with any of the gender critical people who are meaningfully engaging in kind of, you know, like proliferating gender critical ideas. And it will just be kind of random stuff. And I'll just be left there going, well, okay, yeah, sure, somebody might have said that, but so what? Which, of course, the reason I suspect that is because we already kind of had that. We got a clip from Caelan Conrad's video in the Ponderful video where it was basically just look at these things that these random parents have said on gender critical Facebook groups, and it's like, okay, so what? And again, of course, I mean the obvious point would be uh, look at all of the things that like AGPs say about women on Reddit. And you know, obviously not just AGPs, any other kind of trans-identified person. A lot of them will say all sorts of misogynistic stuff, but AGPs especially will, you know, say things like, "Oh, I was catcalled today, and it made me feel valid," and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, that's. So yeah, we'll see. It's yeah, no excuses to not jump in right away. So let's do it. And yeah, by the way, yeah, Lisa Michelle. I mean, I don't know. I assume you've heard of Philosophy Tube and ContraPoints. To be fair, I mean, see, the thing is, this video actually, sorry, just stop. Like, this video actually, it is like a major video that has been kind of doing the rounds. Um, I would say, I mean, Caelan Conrad is definitely. I mean, the thing is, I was gonna be like, Caelan Conrad is like a ContraPoints clone. They're all ContraPoints clones, but yeah, of course, everyone knows about ContraPoints. But yeah, like a lot of these channels do just. I don't know. I mean, I'd say they all get some degree of fame pretty quickly. It's always exciting when I find a TRA channel that has fewer subscribers than me, um, because I'm like, well, you know, because it does seem like all you need to do is make just a half-hearted video essay, and I don't know, like make it look good, and you'll be fine. ContraPoint is what turned you gen. Yeah, I know somebody who the person who kind of turned me gender critical was themselves, I think, turned gender critical by ContraPoints. There's actually a really funny video. It's Jenny McDermott. Um, she doesn't do YouTube anymore, but she went through a phase of like doing kind of YouTube videos in her car, and I remember she was complaining about ContraPoints coming out as a woman, and you know, saying the problem is that ContraPoints is like, I'm a woman now. I talk like a woman. Like, I don't know, probably a better impression than that. But yeah, like basically, in other words, saying that she found the impression that ContraPoints was doing of womanhood to be offensive. All right, okay, let's do this. So, is it going to just automatically get up? Oh, it should. Okay, let's see. Boom. Get rid of that. Okay, we're just going to do it. 2 hours and 22 minutes. Like, literally, even if I said nothing, we wouldn't get this done in one stream.
Hi, welcome.
Oh, I should probably make sure that, like, y'all are okay with the volume levels. So yeah, I'll play it for a bit and just let me know if it sounds similar to me, different from me. Hey, I'm really tiny. I mean, sorry, wait, let me fix this. I know exactly why this has happened. How do I fix you? How do I lights will guide you home? Oh god, this is a terrible idea. Wait. Can I? Okay, I know how I'm gonna do this. I've got to move you. Sorry, everybody. You're going there. Oh my lord. Okay, I'm just gonna have to wait. Sorry, everybody. Not that sorry. I gotta do this, and I gotta do this, and I gotta do. It's really annoying how changing the camera changes the. Okay, there we go. Oh, good. We got this guy. Hold on a minute. Oh, do we have to like reset it every single time? Because I should have the I literally set up the like you need to have been subscribed for a certain amount of time thing. So I'm obviously going to yeah, I'm gonna block this person. But yeah, like maybe I have to set it up every single time. There's got to be a way to set it as a default. But yeah, I'll yeah, don't worry, I'm banning them. Oh wait, do I need to ban them in YouTube chat? I feel like see I block them, but oh everything's so confusing. Put user hide user on this channel? I mean that surely achieves the same thing, right? Or does it not? Oh god. I can block them here. Whatever. I need to I'm gonna okay. Are they deleted for everyone else? I'm not sure. But okay, wait. So I'll try and set up the goddamn thing I need to set up again. Oh, goodness me, I clicked off myself. See, now I have to look up how to do it again. Change who can comment on YouTube chat. Okay. Um, stream. Who can send messages? Okay, there we go. There's got to be a way to set that as a default. Or maybe I should try and set it as a default now. Settings. Permissions? Community? Messages in your live chat? Well, I'll do that. I've set it so potentially inappropriate comments are held for review in my live chat. I'm not sure if that's like the best thing, but okay, we'll see. I mean, it's at least a temporary solution, as in it's not going to happen again in this stream because I've got the well, unless they subscribe. But I don't think bots are smart enough to get around that. Oh come on, guys! I expect you to comment a bit more. Mostly because I feel embarrassed when people when people watch the live thing. Okay, whatever, that's fine. We'll do it. Hello, King. Okay, that's an interesting name. Nice to meet you, Mr. Hitman. I don't know, dude. You might want to yeah, you might want to get a less provocative name. Okay, let's do this.
I imagine there's going to be some new faces here tonight, so, oh hey there. Thanks for stopping in. The story I have to tell you tonight is, I believe, a very important one, but by its nature, it's also incredibly disturbing, depressing, and triggering. This is a story of what you find when you peel back the mask and look inside the minds of people so filled with fear and hate that it consumes them. As you can imagine, that's a very dark place to go. Consider this your blanket content warning. Everything's on the table. The series is not for the faint of heart, nor is it for those of us who would rather ignore bigotry and violence to avoid conflict.
Okay, you know what, Mr. Hitman, I will accept that as a valid explanation. Like Basic Instinct. I know what I'm on about.
Especially when the status quo keeps them comfortable and content. You will find no respectability politics here, and nothing is sugar-coated at any point. I will not pretend I'm not angry to placate those in our community who would rather us throw each other under the bus than throw a metaphorical brick. I follow one rule. Unless they have already publicly outed themselves as part of this ideology, I will not use any real names or photos. Due to the nature of this video, I unfortunately will have to display quite a lot of screenshots, as anything I quote that isn't immediately verifiable will trigger a demand for evidence from anti-trans.
You mean Casper the Friendly Ghost? or Kasper Schmeichel, the Danish goalkeeper, who I believe is still the goalkeeper for Leicester City. Let me check. If he is, maybe I'll use him as in my fantasy football team. Kasper Schmeichel. Uh, yep, Leicester City. How old is he though? 35. It's old. Oh dear. Is that Thought Slime? Now Thought Slime, that's a better comparison than Kasper Schmeichel, the Danish goalkeeper. Um, yeah, I don't have anything to say that is worth including in the main thing yet. Although someone mentioned the bite model, and yeah, I do think like it will be interesting to see how the argument is made that the gender critical movement is a cult, because obviously I would hope that it would involve actually engaging with academic definitions for a cult. Um, so yeah, we'll see.
activists. Oh yeah, like that. These screenshots, however, will be absolutely nauseating at times. And
I'm not sure what you mean by semantic demand for evidence. Oh, sorry, pedantic demand for evidence.
except for privacy or algorithmic reasons, will be almost entirely uncensored. There will be blurred but recognizable slurs, there will be hate speech, and holy crap, is there going to be misgendering. It's their fave. While the content of this video is intense, obfuscation and censoring their most hateful comments serves their agenda more than it protects us from it. We know this is what they're saying, and we need the general public to know that too. A bunch of screenshots that look like the Mueller report aren't exactly going to convince anyone of anything. This is the first.
I want to, okay, like, again, this is probably not going into the thing either, but whatever. So I think I've already mentioned this a bit, but like I had a whole conversation with Katie Montgomery where Katie Montgomery posted a leaked chat, and the chat was like, ugh, intersex women are disgusting, or something like that. Like, basically, that was the tweet, pretty simply. And I commented, like, hey, because you could see the names of the people in the chat. So I was like, oh, I'm going to look these people up. And literally, upon, because I was interested, like, are these people being followed by anybody I know? Are these people being followed? I mean, do these people follow me? So I went to look it up, and I found out that actually there were several, like, even in just trying to find them on Twitter, I found several gender critical people being like, oh, those people are trolls. Those people, like, aren't actually legitimate. Like that's the thing. Like just from a cursory search, it was just like they had I can't remember their names, but whatever it was, looked them up and just immediately found gender critical people like, oh, those people are trolls. So I responded to Katie Montgomery like, hey, just looking for these people at all, I find gender critical people before, and this is the key thing, like before this post from Katie Montgomery. So it wasn't like they were saying trolls in response. It was like there was already going back months like Twitter threads with people saying, "Oh, this person's a troll. This person's not legitimate. Whatever else." So I was like, "Hey, it doesn't take long to find out this person. These people are already regarded kind of negatively within gender critical spaces. So why is it every single time you guys think you're like exposing the gender critical movement as it really is, it's always actually just obscure people who no one's ever heard of or anything like that. It kind of reminds me of like the whole Lily Cade thing, right? Like Lily Cade says this, admittedly pretty morally objectionable, violent tirade, but who'd heard of Lily Cade? Not me. Also, I like how tirade and Cade rhyme. And yeah, it's kind of like, and then obviously I pointed out, and then they were like, well, the things you say in public are just as bad. And it's like, they don't even seem to realize that, okay, if that's true, then why are you even acting as if you're exposing us? Like, if you think that the things we're saying in public are just as bad, then what's even the point in this post? Like, and that's the thing, it's literally so much kind of goalpost moving and a lot of equivocation too, because obviously, like, I feel like even like what they'll do is they'll post kind of leaked chat messages from random people to be like, oh, look, this is what they're really saying behind the scenes. And then meanwhile, anybody who actually like is involved in the gender critical movement and speaks to other people knows that actually no, in private conversations I've had with gender critical people, I've never known any gender critical person to reveal some kind of secret, horrible ill will that they have towards some kind of marginalized group or anything like that. So We all know that. Um, but obviously then they'll be like, well, and then you point out, well, hold on a minute, this isn't actually accurately reflecting the gender critical movement. And then they'll be like, oh, well, that's, what you believe anyway is just as bad. But the point is that their whole argument is to try and, say that their whole argument is to basically say that we're lying and we're like hiding our true intentions, but they can't make that argument credibly when actually, like the reality is that gender critical people are pretty honest about what we believe. Like that's it. There is no this whole idea of like, oh, this is what these people really think is complete nonsense. It's not actually accurate at all. Like essentially, as far as I can tell, there are people in the gender critical movement who are horrible and abusive and mean just as there are in any other movement. And those people, as far as I can tell, are mean in private messages and in public messages. You know, every single time you get these leaked private messages from gender critical people who are, and they're actually objectionable messages, it doesn't take you long to see that they're just as kind of aggressive and incendiary and, kind of morally objectionable publicly as they are privately. And conversely, any other time, when you get the gender critical people who are basically just advocating for gender critical ideas, they say what they believe publicly and they say it privately. So the idea that you can expose the fact that, as if the implication is, well, J.K. Rowling must secretly be behind the scenes talking about how much she hates, whatever, all sorts of marginalized groups. It's just completely made up. Um, oh, yeah, I've heard a lot about the whole, yeah, autism. Well, that's what J.K. Rowling even spoke about, like autistic people being targeted. Hi, Ian.
First of 3 core videos about my time investigating the gender critical cult. Ideally, they should be watched in order. This first video covers how one gets recruited into the cult and the tactics they use to keep you there. The second installment serves as proof of the terrifying reality that gender critical parents are, as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the interesting thing. I think that it is far more likely that the TRAs are saying, and I think it's probably an example of projection. I think that the TRAs in public act nice, act friendly, act like they're not misogynistic, act like they're not hateful. Sometimes, I mean, heck, a lot of the time they don't, but whatever. And then in private, they're worse, and therefore they assume the same is true for gender critical people. Like, because they keep so much stuff hidden, because they keep so much of what they actually believe kind of held close to their chest, they're assuming that gender critical people are too. I think yeah, the kind of projection idea might be accurate, considering, yeah, it does seem a lot of the time you find out, oh wait, a lot of what these TRAs have said behind the scenes is pretty scary.
Conducting dangerous and illegal conversion therapy on their children, and that they do this at the direction of the movement's leaders. The final video
Okay, I don't know how much of this I'm going to include, but it's worth noting. There's the claim that this is being done by the direction of the movement's leaders. Now, I will say this: I don't know who is a leader of the gender critical movement. That's kind of a difficult thing to say because it's like, who's the most prominent gender critical person? I guess J.K. Rowling, but is she liaising with like is that it, or would it be kind of maybe the academic kind of writery people like Helen Joyce or Kathleen Stock? Are they the leaders, or would it be perhaps online personalities? Would it be, I don't know, I can't think of specifically. I don't want to name any specific because I feel like if I named one, then I would be implicitly making all the other ones not feel bad. But insert your favorite online gender critical personality here. The point is, are they the leaders? So I'm not sure. I'd be interested to hear who the leaders of the gender critical movement supposedly are. But I will say, for my part, that if it's either of those three things, the kind of major celebrity activists for the gender critical side, the kind of academic activists, or indeed the kind of online major personalities, if it's any of those three, that is a problem. But I would be interested to see that case actually being evidenced.
reveals how gender critical activists intentionally manipulate the public and exposes anti trans activists and icons for who they are when they feel safe enough to drop the mask of persecution. It serves as evidence that not only is the
I mean, look, I also want on the record, I'm not going to pause and I'm not going to read the screenshots. I'm sure the screenshots are nonsense. I mean, maybe I should just read one for fun. Um, Megan Murphy, words that you don't even read, lol. None of those, okay, R slurs are even on my Patreon. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I've already said that word on Twitch. So, okay. I can see, to be fair, like, I'll be honest, yes. I can see how people, I guess, like, the politically correct left would consider that. I mean, the thing is, you got to bear in mind, these are the same people who think, like, that it's ableist to call people idiots or say that people are lame. And yeah, obviously, I just don't do that. Like, as in, I just, as far as I'm concerned, it's fine. Like, if you want to say somebody's lame, say they're lame. It shouldn't be insulting people who are actually like lame in reality. If you want to say somebody's an idiot, say they're an idiot. That's not ableist. But whatever. Either way, I'm not going to go through every single one of these screenshots that is just being flashed up, because if I pause to go through every single screenshot as it's just being flashed up, this video would take even longer. If there is a screenshot that Caelan Conrad thinks is uniquely worth mentioning, then I will engage with that. But if it's just going to be flashed up like that, I'm not really going to pay much attention to it.
gender critical ideology a cult, but a hate group. Writing this series was daunting at first because of how much raw and unfiltered information I had amassed over the months I've been
Thanks for the R word pass. I think I mostly use it for myself. I can't remember what it was in Twitch. I do try to avoid it. I will say that like it's one of those things where like if I use it, it's because there's no filter. Like basically it's because I'm in a situation where I've said it completely unthinkingly, because usually I'm aware it's a controversial thing to say. But the thing is, like, when I do say it unthinkingly, I'm not like, oh, that was a horrible thing for me to have done. Because I don't really care. The thing is, I mean, it's always one of those weird things, because it's like, okay, let's suppose somebody misses something that they could have seen. Like there was something somebody should have been able to see, and I say, are you blind? Okay, is that ableist? Well, okay, I mean, there are blind people, but the point is, essentially, you're pointing out that somebody has lacked an ability to do something, right? You're pointing out somebody has lacked an ability to see something. And in the exact same way, if you're going to say somebody is R-worded, well, you're pointing out that they lack an ability to kind of have their brain functioning at, I don't know, whatever level. I think it's like literally there's like a certain level of IQ that means you're like technically, officially R-worded. Like I say, I mean, I could say it. I wouldn't care. But you know what? I usually play it very safe with these kind of things, so I'm not going to say it. But yeah, like that's the thing. You're just pointing out a lack of ability that a certain group has and saying, hey, you're acting like somebody who lacks that ability. Of course, the funny thing about lame is like lame means like as an actual term, it means like crippled. But in obviously as like a kind of casually used term, it just means like boring. Um, I want to know, when's boring going to become like a like mental issue, and then you won't be allowed to say people are boring. That's a good point. Yeah, yeah, I think that. What I'm saying is that like I'm kind of talking about the intersection between it as an insult and a diagnosis. Like I'm saying, like if you're using it as an insult, you're saying somebody lacks the ability that people who have received it as a diagnosis have, which is, I guess, to think at a certain level of, I don't know, whatever. I don't really know what IQ is measuring, but yeah, let's just say think at a certain level of intelligence. Let's just say. But it's a weird thing. It's kind of like can I say spaz? Am I going to say spaz? Okay, I'll say spaz, because I know that like in America everyone loves to say it all the time. So like obviously that's about your coordination, right? So again, is it, I mean, all you're doing is you're pointing out somebody lacks the ability that somebody who has the diagnosis also lacks. So it's like if somebody does something incredibly clumsy, I don't know, how objectionable is it? as far as I'm concerned, is functionally equivalent to saying somebody who didn't hear you when you spoke to them really clearly is is deaf. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, I think there's a point at which you just have to accept. Like, it kind of like that's the problem with the whole idiot thing, right? It's like, well, you can't call people an idiot because being an idiot is out of somebody's control. But there's a point at which you have to accept there are things outside of people's control which still should rightly not be viewed as good things. And that doesn't mean that you should necessarily attack somebody for something entirely out of their control, but you can still view it as a bad thing. So, like, yeah, like I say, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously you shouldn't walk around attacking blind people, but you can still view being blind as a bad thing insofar as if, let's say, somebody is driving a car and they cut you off without realizing you're there and you say, oh, is he blind? You're basically saying, oh, do they have that thing that would mean that it would be bad for them to drive? Kind of like I say, that's kind of it. um but yeah, whatever. The thing is, I mean, it's kind of funny because I guess I'll admit a slight. I don't want to say L exactly because but like the one screenshot I decided to read was that Megan Murphy one because I was interested, and like I 100% can recognize that from the perspective of like a TRA, saying that is just like the worst thing ever. But I don't know, it doesn't bother me personally. Um, and yeah, I don't know, like yeah, it's very weird because I will say this. Okay, there is a very famous, I say famous, there is a TRA person who is self-proclaimed autistic, and I have had several conversations with them where they have completely been unable to understand and follow the flow of conversation. And at several points, I've wanted to say to them, "Hey, do you think this might be to do with the fact that you're, you know, autistic? Like maybe." But like I feel like they say that was me insulting them. But I'm kind of just like, listen, at the end of the day, if I'm going to be talking about like complicated stuff and you're going to be not understanding what I'm saying, um, then I can't help but appeal to the fact that, or point out the fact that you literally are, by your own words, autistic. Like, I would imagine that autistic people would struggle to understand the subtle nuances of what people are saying. And I often find with this particular person that I'll try to make a point that's kind of subtle, and they'll just be like, oh, so you're saying, and then I'll say something like totally wildly not what I'm saying. Um, yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, like, it's all, yeah, like ableism is just a weird it's I think it literally is a slippery slope of like as soon as you start saying, well, that's ableist, it's like, well, yes, I'm insulting somebody for what they're not able to do. Like, yeah, if somebody's not able to hear me by, when I'm far away, I'm going to call them deaf as an insult. If somebody's not able to think critically, yeah, maybe I will call them an idiot as an insult. Is that really the worst thing? I don't know. Whatever. We'll continue though.
Monitoring and engaging with these people, often for hours a day. I work alone on my projects other than for a collab or a line reading, which meant tens of thousands of screenshots that needed to be tagged, organized, and anonymized, and then turned into a script. It was too much, way too much. So I was a bit worried that when I actually began to write, I would struggle. But the moment I physically sat down to write, I could not stop. It was an incredibly clarifying catharsis, which is a bit of a problem as I kind of accidentally wrote most of a book, which is great. That this started as a single video and then turned into a 3-part series, and there were still so many things I needed to cut completely due to time, and I'm still writing. So consider this my more formal apology to my subscribers and patrons for deciding to spend 4,000 hours and 6 months working on a series of monster videos after I've repeatedly said I'm going to be doing shorter ones. The series is quite long, but its entire runtime is ad-free thanks to those very same patrons on Patreons.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, a lot of the time with the slur stuff, I mean, there is an undeniable arbitrariness to it. And with that in mind, like, my attitude is always take it with a grain of salt. Like, I think the thing is, you can argue, well, you shouldn't be saying that. But I don't think you can as credibly argue the fact you're saying that makes you an awful person. Like, I mean, the obvious example would be like the C word, which obviously in the UK, I would say doesn't really have misogynistic connotations. Like, that's my legit take. And I've even made a video about it before where I basically spoke about sexist slurs and argued that the C word isn't really one contextually within the UK because it's literally used like it doesn't have any kind of misogynistic connotations. And somebody can disagree with that. And like based on that, I mean, I've dropped the C word casually many, many, many times in my life. And with that said, somebody could say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that," and they could argue that actually, for whatever reason they want to argue, and you know, maybe I'm about to start a whole such argument in the chat, but argue for whatever reason they want to argue, no, it is objectionable. You shouldn't say it. It's very bad if you do say it. And then I would, you know, potentially maybe think they have some good arguments, or I wouldn't think they have good arguments, whatever. But the point is, they can definitely say they don't think I should be saying it. But what I don't think they can as realistically say is, well, you're an awful, horrible, misogynistic person for saying it. Because, of course, they don't know my reasons for saying it. And, of course, I would say the reason I say it is because I don't think that it is, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a go to kind of intense swear word. And, you know, I work a lot with technology, so I need to reach for some intense swear words a lot of the time, which is kind of, again, why I don't necessarily view it as a misogynistic word, because I've called the real victim of the C word has been my computer. Um, but then conversely, for example, the B word, I literally do think that that is a misogynistic slur because I think it has very clearly negative gendered connotations. And therefore, if somebody uses that word, you know, if I wanted to be super, you know, a real warrior, a real white knight, I would say um, yeah, I would say, hey, you know, you shouldn't be using that term. It's got some really negative gendered connotations, all that kind of stuff. But again, I wouldn't say, well, the fact you use that word means you're awful and you're terrible and you're the worst person. Yeah, I think that's it. Like, if somebody wants to say you shouldn't use the R word, I would say, yes, okay, that's, you know, a perfectly valid point to make. But if somebody says you're a horrible, evil bigot because you used it, I think that's a little less credible. Um, we need to call everybody of every group every slur. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, there is like there's some words which obviously aren't particularly kosher. Um, yeah, yeah, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you know, I don't. There's like obviously particularly some racial slurs, which I do think are quite intense. And you know, I don't think it's you know, I don't want to I don't agree with the people who are just like, you know, the kind of iDubbbses of the world who are like, um, you know, we gotta use the word all the time so it loses its power. Like I just think that's kind of unrealistic.
If at any point in this video or this series you think to yourself, wow, you really put yourself through months of this to make 3 feature-length films for free by yourself? I did, yes. Feel free to join my Patreon to thank me and get access to behind-the-scenes zines, it's hard to say, and posts for this and all upcoming video essays. This series is based on thousands of posts and comments in these groups, and obviously I can't even fit 1% of them in this series, so I've created threads of them on my Twitter at Caelan Conrad, and they should be live.
Okay, I want to point this out because it annoys me personally. The audio and the visuals are out of sync. And I only say that because, you know, I guess it's kind of what do you say? We criticize in others the flaws we see in ourselves. And like sometimes I will notice that I've accidentally got my audio and my visuals out of sync. But yeah, it's definitely true here. Um, anyway, I saw somebody, by the way, you know, speaking of unbelievably cringe, I was watching a video by somebody, and first of all, I want to say that they were cringe for one reason, which is like, so they were playing. Like, I often spend probably, you know, second to trans identity issues. The thing I spend most of my time thinking about is how there should be a Grand Theft Auto with zombies in it, like there's a Call of Duty zombies, a Grand Theft Auto zombies. And the thing is, there is actually a mod of Grand Theft Auto with zombies, but because I'm not a proper gamer, I don't really play on my PC very much. So I was like, and because I'm not a proper gamer, I don't really, I need to finish all the many games I haven't played. But anyway, the point is, I decided to watch this video, and like the first cringy thing is that he was like a little kid playing it because he was like making up stories as he went along. Like he was like saying like he was like, this guy's got to go find his wife and kids, blah blah. And he's like, I don't know, it was just like the way he was saying it. And like, oh, there's another bit, I can't remember what it was. It was like this moment where something happened, and he like constructed a narrative. Oh, I know what it was. He was like trying to climb some stairs, and then he fell over, and he was like, "Oh man, he's getting so tired he can't even climb the stairs." Or like, no, I think it was like he was so scared he can't even climb the stairs, or something like that. And I was just like, I don't know, I just found it really endearing. I say it was cringe. It was endearing cringe that he was like coming up with a little story for this character he was controlling. Um, when I would assume it was actually just oh yeah, it's an adult. I will say this, like an adult who has 12 million subscribers and basically I think does not really any better of a job at like commentating on a game than I would. And I've always kind of thought I'm not really charismatic enough for the whole let's play thing. But I was like, this guy ain't so great. Um I do feel like to an extent you've got to let go of your ego in order to behave sufficiently obnoxious to not be so reserved when you're playing a game, which I think is an issue I have. I feel like I would feel too self-conscious if I was playing a game to like really get into it, and maybe that's something that counts against me. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say, this is all a long-winded way of building up to the fact that the guy kept going, okay, everyone get ready to like 3, 2, 1, like spike. And like he was trying to get people to, have a like spike. And I was thinking, I think entirely reasonably, that you guys, all 30 of you, which actually isn't that many, it's not much of a spike, but I was thinking you guys might want to do a like spike. Um, so, not that I'm necessarily expecting it to work, but just on the off chance that you haven't liked it, we're gonna see if we can do a like spike. Because I was like, I want to see if I can do a like spike. Of course, that's how it starts. First of all, you're asking for like spikes. The next minute, you're making up characters in a GTA mod. Okay, we got to 14. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, like spike. Did we do it? We got. Okay. Like on my face just dropped as wait, no wait, where is it? Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, okay, we went up a little bit. Okay, that's fine. Alright. Let's do this. Let's do this. Um being a Let's Play streamer is my secret dream. Well, I've told you before. Yo. I was gonna say y'all, but then I thought, no, let's be real here. I told yous before that I really want to at some point stream myself playing the Harry Potter video games because J.K. Rowling, but also because I like them. So I don't know. At some point, I want to do that. Yeah, so I can't believe how much I derailed my own thing. Okay, let's do this.
As of now.
I'm genuinely like so confused about these graphics. Like, kind of, what is this? Like, how did this happen? Does this person have like just an entire three-dimensional house that's like completely computer, like digitally rendered?
Okay, well, get comf and get cozy, because we're about to start the show.
Wow. Bash. Bashback Productions. Oh my lord, is that like razor wire? Like you're being held inside the razor wire. Ah, I just like shook. To be fair, cults that you can leave anytime are the worst kind of cults because they don't even give you the satisfaction of feeling special or like you're particularly needed. Like, I think that's the worst thing about the gender critical cult. If somebody says, "Hey, I want to leave," then all the gender critical people say, "Okay." That's why the trans cult is much better because then if you're like, "Hey, I want to detransition," they all attack you and say you're the worst person ever and threaten you with reprisal if you ever align yourself with the evil turfs. Um, but yeah, basically, it's not really. I mean, no, let's not say it's not really. It's not a cult because you can leave. I mean, the thing is, like, if somebody left, like my main issue with it is I would suspect that they didn't actually like I've seen kind of people describe themselves as ex gender critical, and usually it's just because they literally had no idea what being gender critical was. Alternatively, it might be because they've just decided not to identify with the words anymore, but they still believe the same things. So, yeah, I will say that I've never really known anybody who's like left the gender critical movement in a meaningful sense, but if they have, so what? Who cares? Certainly, I mean, we're definitely not in a situation where we're at a net loss when it comes to people joining because more people are going to become peak trans than are going to become peak G seed. I feel like this title is like way too long considering the relatively small amount of information that presumably needs to be communicated. Because according to Caelan, this stuff was worked on entirely. Like this is entirely the work of Caelan Conrad. So basically, all it is it's by Caelan Conrad, and the title is Inside a Cult: Gender Critical Part One Recruitment. So how much do you need an intro? Like I wasn't really paying attention to what was said, but it seems like this has been unnecessarily long for a very small amount of information. Oh wow, look, the oh no, it's the suffragette colors covering the woman's mouth. That's just those that's so sad, isn't it? When the suffragette um colors just cover your mouth and you can't speak. This is literally like MRA stuff. I still got more. Okay. Oh no, it's like it's like the indoctrination center. Uh oh no. Oh my lord. It's a church.
The thing about dog whistles is they're really quite effective.
That's true.
Ingenious, actually. They grant you the freedom to harass, threaten, and discriminate under a guise of ignorance and innocence. They succeed at conveying the type of things that the general public would, at minimum, find distasteful, but by hiding motivation and meaning, they maintain their air of harmlessness. Take, for instance, the phrase traditional family values. You
Wait a
know,
minute.
if someone were
We're
to say,
so out of sync. Wait.
for instance, the phrase traditional family values.
I'm sorry, but I gotta say this. You can't have such a massive credit sequence showing, like, implying all this effort has been put in, and then have it be that out of sync. I know a lot of people don't watch this, they listen to this, but Traditional family values is so out of sync.
Maintain their air of harmlessness. Take, for instance, the phrase traditional family values.
It's so out of sync. That's insane. Um, uh, but yeah, basically, the thing is, I mean, it's worth noting, like, dog whistles are really clever. The one thing which I feel like which hasn't been mentioned yet is the fact that like the clever thing about dog whistles is that if somebody works out the dog whistle and then criticizes it, you can make fun of them for, getting upset over nothing. The obvious example being the OK sign, or like if somebody makes the OK sign, but in like a way where, and then actually trying to use it to mean white power, um, and then someone makes fun of them and says, "Hey, why'd you do that?" Then you can be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was just the OK sign. Clearly, the loony left has got a bit out of hand." That's the clever thing about dog whistles. Um, I will say, for the record, I don't think there are any gender critical dog whistles, but we'll see.
Now, if someone were to say, I believe in traditional family values, it could seem pretty innocuous. But often, I support traditional family values is a dog whistle for I am anti abortion, anti same sex marriage, and adoption. And by now, almost
I'm sorry, Lisa. I can feel you judging me.
everyone involved in politics knows this. But to a complete outsider, seeing one person say, I support traditional family values, and then seeing people replying things like, just say you hate gay people and go, the first person comes off as being attacked for something they never did, and the second person looks like an agitator making baseless claims. It isn't until you've learned the true meaning of a dog whistle that the intentions of the person using it becomes clear. Of course, if you try and discuss their intentions without explaining the context, anyone not in the know sees you as some whack job antagonist, someone that is seeing things in the shadows that aren't there. But in truth, the shadows are where we find what's hiding, or rather,
I just can't believe all this effort was put into visuals, and yet it's so out of sync.
what's been hidden. The greatest weapon.
At this rate, the react will take 20 hours. I didn't have. You know what? Actually, 20 hours. Oh, wait. You mean 20 hours just for this video? Okay, yeah, that is quite bad.
A bigot has will always
I was thinking like 20 hours for the whole series.
be controlling the conversation, hiding in plain sight as concern.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Yeah, if somebody like does a dog whistle, you just say, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And then yeah, whatever they say. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is.
Ordinary citizens masking themselves and their prejudice behind a facade of victimhood. There's a reason why white supremacists frame their ideology as a means of protecting themselves from the erasure of Aryans as a race, despite their enormous numbers, power, and influence.
You will not replace us!
I'm not even going to acknowledge like sufficient or very much the whole like erasure of Aryans as a race. And it's like, and obviously I know that's going to be like, oh, just like how they say that women are being erased. But it's like a very different thing. Like, obviously, one is a kind of conspiracy theory about white people being like bred out of existence or whatever. And the other one is just about linguistic terminology changing. They're not really the same thing just because you can phrase them in the same way, which ironically is kind of the exact kind of manipulative phrasing that I'm sure Caelan and Conrad would object to in other contexts, like if it's coming from GCs. But apparently, the manipulative phrasing of making it sound as if two things are really similar when they really don't have anything to do with each other is fine here.
It is only through reaching up, pulling off the mask, and revealing their true face to the world that those outside the conflict can actually be made into effective allies. I'm just so tired of circular arguments about whether trans women are women or my queer ass is non-binary, defending ourselves over and over, allowing the conversation to be manipulated and controlled by anti-trans activists. So I will not be arguing that trans people's identities are valid. I will not be giving them what they want.
Okay, I mean, it's worth noting, just a record, whether trans identity is valid is not the dog whistle. It's literally the only argument. I don't want to say it's the only argument that matters, but to an extent, it is the only argument that matters because it's like, if biological males can be women, then yeah, they should be included in feminism. Yeah, they should be able to play in women's sports. Yeah, they should be allowed in women's spaces because they would be women, but there's not a good argument for them being women, so there you go. Like, if you're basically at this point saying, essentially, it's just like complete intellectual cowardice being presented as like some kind of principled stand, where it's like, Oh, okay. See you later, Layla. Yeah, being presented as some kind of intellectual or principled stand, because it's like, oh, I'm not going to actually engage with the main argument that matters, the only argument that matters, the argument which, if I were able to present a good case for my position, it would completely destroy the gender critical side. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to talk about loads of other stuff, which is just wrong. Like that's not like avoiding engaging with the dog whistle. That's avoiding engaging with the central point. So it's fine. Like you don't have to focus on important stuff. But if you're going to choose not to focus on important stuff, don't present it as if like you're actually focusing on what's really important. You're not. You're focusing. It's literally like if I don't know, a Christian started a video like, I'm not going to focus on does the Christian God exist, because that's just a dog whistle. No, it's not. It's literally the main argument for why people are likely to disagree with you.
Which is to distract us from the real question, which isn't are trans people valid, but are gender critical anti-trans activists qualified and unbiased enough to speak on issues of trans rights and identities?
Is that the real question? Really? Because that seems very, very dumb. Essentially, what you're saying is the question isn't are the arguments good, but are the people making the arguments sufficiently authoritative? And that is so much of a logical fallacy. It's staggering.
What are their motivations and preconceived biases? Simply put, how much harm are they doing, and how full of fucking shit are they? I know there will be quite a few gender critical people here tonight from the dozen groups or so I infiltrated.
Well, I'm not from any of the groups that were infiltrated, but I will say that I am here, not not on the night this not the tonight of Caelan Conrad, but the tonight of myself. So there we go.
And I'm sure you may feel compelled to leave a lengthy comment right now telling me that I'm the full of shitter. Unfortunately for you, YouTube will most likely block most of the comments you leave as controversial, and I'll never be able to read it. And since I probably already blocked you on Twitter using a mass blocker, if you really feel like I misrepresented something in this video, you can send that to this email, which I definitely will get.
I mean, it's like I don't know. I don't understand these people who like use it as a like as if it's like an alpha moment. Like if you want to try and prove me wrong, like it's just like okay, nice one. It kind of reminds me of when my favorite YouTuber Venom Fang X made a video on creationism, and then Thunderfoot responded, and then Venom Fang X was like, "And as for you, Satan, I censor the comments, so shut up." It's like that's a good move.
Maybe as a YouTuber, I shouldn't be telling people not to leave a comment. Whatever. I
For all we know, Caelan Conrad has been here this whole time.
don't even check my analytics, so what do I care? A year and a half ago, I did a deep dive into the gender critical subreddit. Gender critical. I did a video on it, and it was my very first YouTube video, but as of now, I've taken it down.
Oh, because I destroyed it with facts and logic.
So much has changed in the world of anti-trans politics since that video was made, and I no longer feel like it represents me or my views.
Oh, really? You don't feel like it represents you and your views? Why? Because you don't feel that your views are getting destroyed by me and my fantastic debunkings that happen to have come out literally. Like, you took that video down within like a week of my response to your video. So I don't know. I mean, I guess well, maybe you didn't feel like it represented your views, but I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if this video gets taken down within a week of. I mean, honestly, I am almost at a point where I would think maybe I should save these videos and archive them based on the fact that Caelan Conrad has at least once in the past taken a video down within a week of me having responded to it. And we'll see.
There's nothing of value in that video that won't be covered in more depth here in this series.
You didn't even need to add that last bit. You just said there's nothing of value in the video.
While researching for that video, I would constantly see references on the subreddit to closed Facebook groups and Telegram chats, ones where they felt more comfortable speaking their minds. Since Reddit is public and anyone can view and report your posts, people often did, so much so that that subreddit was eventually shut down for repeatedly violating Reddit's rules against hate speech. Reddit's rules. Got to be a special kind of McNasty for that. After months on the subreddit, I had been very interested in finding out what was
I like how that person's like saying that Reddit's rules, as if like Reddit's rules aren't really strict, and you like they haven't recently banned use of the word groomer.
behind the locked doors where they
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, I've noticed that. Like they use the word gender critical so much now, like they've kind of stopped using the word turf. And yeah, I think it's because um yeah, I mean I agree with you. I think your logic's correct.
were able to voice their attitudes towards queer and trans people without consequence. But also, after months on the subreddit and making an hour-long video about gender critical people and their connection to the alt-right, I pretty much never wanted to think about the topic again.
Still haven't got over how out of sync the audio is.
But here we are. Now, for the record, I'm not a journalist, I'm just some deviant queer with a YouTube channel. But I looked into the shadows and I saw something there. Sure, I could publicly speculate, make accusations of dog whistles without real evidence, but that's exactly what they want us to do. You need to show people what you saw in the shadows. And I needed something concrete.
Okay.
So I logged into the Facebook alias I used for my undercover anti-vaccine research and got to work. I joined a few public groups listed outright as gender critical, and then following suggestions I saw in the replies to other people in the groups, applied to join some closed groups that are not accessible to the public. Many of the groups are not labeled as gender critical, and it isn't until you've looked further into the posts and
I would like, oh my god, I'm on some gender critical Facebook groups and I've never seen anything objectionable. I don't know if the groups I'm on count as private. But yeah, whatever. I'm on like gender critical. Like there's a gender critical left is a Facebook group I'm on, which it kind of makes sense. Like I will say this, not to sound so cool, but the majority of the gender critical groups I'm part of on Facebook, it's because people reached out to me and like actually said, "Hey, would you like to join my group?" Because yeah, I guess they liked my stuff.
the rules that you would find it stated. There are two subgroups of transphobe that exist in the sphere, and their overlap is extensive. Anti-trans activists, which many people call TERFs. These are people of all political backgrounds that unite under one issue, rallying against gender identity and ideology, and usually like queer theory as well. In this group is where you find the anti-trans icons, transphobic people who have made a career or name for themselves largely by targeting trans people. These people are held up as martyrs and thought leaders and are often cited as having been people's entry point into gender critical ideology, known as peaking. Peaking is analogous to radicalization or red pilling, the process through which someone becomes radicalized into the alt-right.
Well, look, peak is basically just essentially the point at which you realize it's nonsense. Like essentially all it is a pretty simple term for changing your mind on a topic. The distinct thing about it, I suppose, is the fact that gender identity nonsense is so ubiquitous and so everywhere and so forced upon us to kind of accept it that therefore there is this idea of that point at which you reach a certain level of nonsense at which you can't tolerate it anymore and you just realize, oh, this is actually just complete BS. And yeah, that basically had to have happened to pretty much every single gender critical person because almost every single gender critical person was at some point trans affirming because that's an idea that's pushed upon us. So yeah, there was a point at which I would have just said, yeah, trans women, women, all that stuff. And then I hit peak trans when I realized how much nonsense there was.
It is the moment when, through exposure to gender critical propaganda and ideology, you are finally convinced that trans people, and maybe the queers, are a danger to society. Both the icons and the peaked group members who stand with them are overwhelmingly white, straight, cis women. Of course, most groups are overwhelmingly straight, as is the world, but that doesn't make it any less relevant.
Well, it's also worth noting, in fact, that not only is, so you pointed out that most groups are overwhelmingly straight, but I would say the gender critical movement is disproportionately gay and lesbian. I would be quite confident about, and also disproportionately women. So, and maybe even, I think you could argue, disproportionately non-white. I'm not sure about that, but I know certainly in both the UK and the US, there are prominent gender critical activists. I mean, actually, especially in the US, but I'm not sure. I mean, both of them. I don't know. Whatever. It's both of them. There are prominent gender critical activists who are not white, and of course, I mean, yeah. If you think about the UK, I mean, the UK is what, like 80% white, something like that. And yeah, I would say that it seems to me like there are more than 20% of kind of non-white people that I see in the gender community. Again, I don't have statistics on it or anything like that. I am speculating a little bit, but yeah, it seems to me like a lot of gender critical people I know, for example, actually are ex-Muslim in the UK, and they are from kind of South Asian backgrounds. So again, I would hesitate, or not hesitate, I would hazard the speculation that the gender critical movement is disproportionately non-white. But certainly, I think it's definitely, obviously, I mean, disproportionately female, and obviously, women are a marginalized group in society. And I think it's definitely disproportionately lesbian and gay. So there we go.
That the people they target are, for the most part, overwhelmingly not. The second group is of transphobic parents or family members. These are people that otherwise may have ignored trans and LGBTQ discourse, but upon their child coming out as trans or non-binary, find themselves personally invested. In these groups, they post personal and medical information about their children, as well as discuss and disseminate propaganda from gender-critical activists. It seems as though these parents...
I wonder if I'm on any of this. I'm not, I don't really care that much, but I'm just interested. But no,
take
I
that
don't think so.
information as gospel, rarely, if ever, publicly questioning the validity of the claims made if the claims confirm their gut feelings. The active group members are the same demographic as the activists.
I might have a cheeky wee. I'm not going to go into this toilet though, even though it's my toilet, because I can understand that you might think, well, yeah, I'm going to turn my camera off, but I'm not going to, I'm just going to turn it back on when I get back. Got pins and needles. They're multiplying. Boom. Hey! I didn't realize. Gotta fix my magic thingy. Boom.
But with a few more men than the other groups. These parents are, in my opinion, the most dangerous group under the gender critical umbrella, for reasons I'll cover in part 2. I spent some time trying to figure out who I would be in these groups, but it seemed easiest to go with my already made alias, Carol Marinera. The concerned, anti-vax mum route would be the most believable and require me to say much less awful things than if I were pretending to be like an anti-trans activist. So if I were to become Carol Marinera, I would become Carol Marinera, really just owning my Carolity and Marinacity. One day while eating penne, it came to me in a stroke of obvious. I knew what my story had to be. It would be my story. It would be my own fictional mother, her grown child just having come out as non-binary. For the record, this is not based on my family. I'm incredibly lucky to have never...
Yeah, it is interesting that, the fact that like the majority of the gender critical movement is women is very much glossed over. Even though obviously it's a very relevant point, because like I say, women historically marginalized.
Been rejected by my family for who I am. The backstory is not exactly a work of creative genius, but it felt good. It felt Gucci.
Okay.
Carol Rogucci Marinera. So, we have our hero, and this is where our journey begins. Not with a bang, but with a ballad.
A ballad? Oh no. Oh no, is this gonna be a song?
The Ballad of Carol Marinera.
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
In southern
Toronto, a woman seeks aid. Her son's in a cult and on a crusade. He has all new pronouns. His name has now changed. And Carol Marinara thinks her son is deranged. She opened up Facebook and made some new friends who were parents of children who are non-binary or trans. I guess to most people, it's not all sus for a woman to be named
Wait a
after
minute.
a song and a source.
Did we just get an unironic use of the word sus? I'm sorry. I think there might be an imposter among us. Is that good? Is that topical for the kids?
Who were they to judge Carol, who was simply a mom, looking for help on detransing her son? Now Carol was no fool, so in the periphery she stayed. She waited and watched as their hate was displayed. She bit firm on her tongue to keep.
You know what I find funny? You know how at the beginning, like, there was a whole thing about like Caelan being like, oh, when I started writing this, it just poured out as if like it was this kind of like thing straight from the heart. I find it really funny imagining that it was this, like it just like started pouring out, and it's just like, oh, is the screen capture frozen?
Up
Oh, no, I don't think so. Oh, it is. Yeah, sorry, you're right.
charade.
Good shout. I thought it was just like holding on it. Yeah, okay.
And why all the fuss? Why all the games? Because Carol Marinara was not who she claimed. No, this was no woman made of source or song, but a homely little queer.
It was me all along.
It was me. What does that remind me of? That way it was said. It was me. Oh, I know what it reminded me of. It reminded me of Piderman from the Mondo Media cartoon series Batman and Piderman, which I would reenact for you, but it's actually very cringy if you can't imagine from the fact that it features somebody who talks just like that. It was me. Batman, whatever. It was me. Batman, I was practicing my counting. You should watch it. Stop this video right now. Stop watching it and watch Batman and Piderman. And then if you think it's stupid, some might say R-worded, don't judge me. Batman.
So I took my little story and posted it in the groups. You know, every group has some
I thought it was just going to be like, I would like if the rest of the whole thing was in verse.
watered down bigots. The ones that get sucked in by memes and confirmation bias and misinformation. You know, like, they don't really care one way or another. They're
I am realizing there's not going to actually be that much to comment on because it's basically just like kind of boring speculation about like just the motivations of people.
just there to fill their edginess quota of the day by reposting
Yeah, it is an early 2000s internet cartoon. Well done.
horrific shit.
Was okay. Oh no, I laughed at it. I will say I don't find that funny. Like, except for in like the basic kind of shock humor sense that, you know, like you could find that thing general funny. But no, I had someone commenting that on like I tweeted something and then somebody commented that, and I was like, that's not okay really. Like, you know, I think it's pretty messed up to like make light of people, you know, dying.
But to get to the ones
But again, like I will say, my reaction to it, I know I laughed when I read it, but that's because like it's shock humor, you know. Which, like I say, I mean, literally, let's not forget the fact that I literally in my last live stream said that Kurt Cobain killed himself because his lyrics didn't make any sense. So, you know, like that's the thing. It's sometimes there's a difference between dark humor and mean humor. And I guess like that's kind of my attitude towards it. Like dark humor's funny, but I think sometimes a lot of like the 41% stuff crosses from being like dark humor to actively mean malicious intent. And I don't do that. That's not okay. Yeah. Yeah, 4chan.
who make those memes and spread that horrific shit, not the shit lords, but the ideologue bigots. You can't just.
Also, I should say, by the way, sorry, the one person who posted the like that was slash were pronouns meme was like some dude who was noticeably concerned. It wasn't like it was being posted by a kind of, it wasn't like it was being posted by J.K. Rowling, but it wasn't being posted by like an actual kind of woman who came across kind of like authentically coming from a place of like kind of genuine concern about her sex-based rights. It was being posted by some dude who was, I reckon, probably a conservative who agreed with me on that issue, but maybe not so much else. Or maybe just a guy who had a kind of inappropriately dark sense of humor. That's actually a really funny point. Yeah, so this is just sensationalism to capitalize and exploit the fears on the far left. Yeah, like that's kind of the thing. This is literally the exact kind of like this is basically, ironically, actual fear mongering to get people into a cult. Basically, what this is saying is, oh no, the terrifying transphobes, blah blah blah. It's completely exaggerating the risk in order to get people to affirm a claim about reality that is otherwise entirely nonsense. That trans identities are valid.
Ask where they are.
Has anyone seen anyone like really gullible with like a really high power level and a lot of information they want to give me that I could use against them?
No, the way in is to identify yourself as someone who is open to their opinions, the ones that
I don't like the rain.
don't say in public.
The ones I don't say in public. Say.
By saying them in public yourself. So Carol needed to be a bigot. Since that meant I was going to have to say.
I like to imagine actually like this whole thing is just a kind of drawn out excuse for like, and that's why I said loads of bigoted stuff. And sure, I might have really enjoyed doing it, but I swear it was a social experiment. I swear, man. Like, genuinely, I promise. Play.
Say some bigoted things, I figure it best to be bigotry I've personally experienced. So Carol became a slightly to very homophobic Catholic mom to a non-binary child, who after years of struggling to not see her son as a sinner, found that she was able to tolerate his homo-disgustingness, but feared for his eternal soul. Her son was out and proud and had a great life, but now he was changing up the rules again, and this time it went too far. Men are men, women are women, and nobody is non-binary.
I like the implication that like an actual kind of conservative Catholic would be like, well, I was fine with homosexuality. It's like, yeah, I think that's already a pretty dodgy premise.
This Carol would not budge on. I got about the response I expected. A bunch of people called.
Yeah, okay, this is the whole thing. This is really interesting. So a lot of the comments are from people, like a lot of. Oh, hold on a minute. This is such a massive cell phone? Loads of people commented saying that she was a gross conservative bigot.
Called out my blatant homophobia, quite rightly. Some people agreed that I should be allowed to maintain my homophobia if it's religious, although those comments were fewer and farther between.
So, you're like destroying your own point.
But the general attitude was one of support for my transphobia, regardless of everything else.
So, yeah, but essentially what you're then saying here is exactly what I would agree with. You're getting to the fact that, yes, gender critical people think that trans identity is nonsense, and that if a biological male says they're a woman, that's a problem. Yes, that's true. That's what I've always said. That's what the majority of gender critical people I know would happily say and sign off on. And then gender critical people also claim to be progressives who have no problem with homosexuality, no problem with same-sex relationships, no problem with feminism, all that kind of stuff. And you've essentially posted evidence to prove exactly that when you presented a bunch of gender critical feminists with a homophobic person, they all said, hey, that's not okay, don't be homophobic. They all rejected it. You're contradicted your own point.
There were no repercussions for my homophobia in the groups. There was no ask from group admins to delete or edit out my bigotry. What I did.
Okay, so I guess the problem is, even though you say there are no repercussions, it seemed like people were calling you out. Like, literally, one of the comments I read was somebody saying, what century is this? Like, that's a pretty clear calling out. So essentially, your only objection, I guess, is that, like, you weren't asked to pay some sort of penance. Maybe the Catholicism thing wasn't very far. Maybe, maybe Caelan was expecting some kind of, like, got to say some Hail Marys and put some money in the confessional or whatever in the collection box or something.
Did get was an invite to join another group. This one smaller, more blatant in its ideology and tactics. The kind of gender critical group that you might not like if homophobia bothers you. Like, should.
Okay, so let's just bear this in mind. Okay, let's bear this in mind though. So now we've got the fact that a smaller, more niche group exists, which expresses views which have already been unambiguously kind of rejected by the majority of gender critical people. But now you have a group which apparently is more tolerant of homophobia, and yet it's only got 127 people. So essentially, this is already pretty meaningless, because it's just like, okay, yeah, it would make sense that maybe be a small group of people who would, accommodate, I guess, that niche of people who, because like nobody's saying that there is not a single, like, I guess, gender critical person who might have some homophobic ideas.
Isn't it always? This group was definitely more self-aware, at least. It was created by a key player in the story, but someone who will be giving a pseudonym, despite probably having more insight.
That's really funny. Yeah, this is a major need to touch grass. I would like to think this person has at least stood in front of a CGI outdoors environment.
And self-awareness into her movement than most of gender critical activists combined, Darlene, as I'll call her, was still quite deeply indoctrinated. Scrolling down through the group, I noticed a post explaining that this was a brand new group that Darlene herself had created. Because of me. Well, because of Carol.
I made this group in response to seeing a religious woman get dogpiled in gender-critical women.
So essentially, the entire premise of this group is that there was a gender-critical movement that was a gender-critical group that thought that religious homophobia was totally unconscionable, totally horrible, and then one person specifically, and by the way, okay, notice the implication of this, right? Think about how much of a self-own this is. It is so rare to have religious homophobes in gender critical spaces that the presence of this one person who wasn't actually a gender critical religious homophobe was enough to motivate an entire group being created. So you think, well, hold a minute, if there were actually a large number of gender critical religious homophobes, wouldn't this group have already been created? Like, this it's very weird, isn't it? It's like, it's kind of strange, because it's like, if there is actually a large number of gender critical religious homophobes, then why was it that it was only Caelan Conrad's false presence there under false pretenses that motivated the creation of this group?
Because she mentioned in her post that she loves her son and his husband and is always kind to them, but she doesn't accept homosexuality. Just saw a reply like, there is no heaven and hell, you don't have...
I hope people aren't finding the audio level low, because no one's mentioned it. I will say this, nobody's mentioned it, so dude looks like a lady.
Have to believe what white men wrote 2,000 years ago. Patriarchy isn't as provable as you think it is either, Liz. For fuck's sake, just let the woman gripe about her son's non-binariness.
They went out of their way.
So essentially what this is saying is, it's basically intersectionality, right? It's saying that women should have a place to complain about the erasure of their rights, and that there shouldn't be, and people might disagree on this, but it's essentially saying, okay, now people are complaining. It's fine. Whatever. I don't mind. I'm happy to be the loud person. But anyway, whatever. Um, um, so essentially, this is giving a woman a space, or saying that women should have a space to complain about the erasure of their rights, even if they have views that other women might find to be objectionable. And that's actually a message of basically intersectionality and inclusion, right? And I know that there are kind of gender critical people who would say, well, actually no, if a woman's a kind of traditionalist religious conservative, she shouldn't have a space in women's, kind of in the feminist discourse. But other women might say, well, actually, you know what? Every woman should have a place in feminist discourse. And even if we might disagree with them, they should still have a place to kind of talk about their issues. And that's, I think, also a legitimate stance to take. And that's basically what's being said here. This woman had, that was a weird noise. This woman had some concerns that related to her rights as a biological female, and she was being dogpiled for her religious beliefs. And essentially, this woman saying, no, actually, we need a space where people can complain about the idea of woman having its meaning take away, and of course the kind of wider negative implications of trans identity for women's rights, while also not having to worry that they'll be dogpiled or kind of attacked for any other kind of secondary or like tertiary beliefs they might have.
To create a space for gender critical people who want to be able to express their controversial opinions without fear of reprisal. Centered the first post around Carol homophobia marinara, and then invited me. Have you ever had a plan just like work?
Well, I can't believe this was your plan, because it's a plan that totally contradicts the main point you're trying to make. Like, literally, so far, all you have managed to prove here is that, one, a gender critical movement was a gender critical group was entirely against your homophobia motivated by religious bigotry, and then, literally, entirely for you, because apparently your presence there was so unique that no one had ever seen anything like it before, one woman decided to set up a group to accommodate you because she thought that women who have legitimate concerns about their sex-based rights shouldn't be shut down and attacked for other beliefs they might have. This does not prove some kind of nonsense idea that the gender critical movement is naturally conservative or homophobic or anything like that. No, you're very far off proving that point. Indeed, you've actually actively contradicted it.
Like, they made this very, very easy. And I would like to stress again. Did I already stress this? I don't know. I feel stressed. Let me say this again for the first time. Carol Marinara is an obviously fake name. Please. Whatever. Anyway,
I mean, is it that obvious of a fake name? Whatever.
I was just so glad that I didn't have to say anything extremely ugly to get into the inner circle. And once I was in...
Wait, hold on. What do you mean the inner circle? Oh my god. No, you... The inner circle is some random Facebook group with 127 members that was created specifically for you by your own admission. That's the inner circle? You think that's... Oh wow, guys. Turns out none of us, like all the people who are kind of like actively advocating for the gender critical movement, doing all of this kind of like work to get involved, or spread gender critical ideas, talking to, hanging out with, having DMs with other gender critical content creators. No, we're not part of the inner circle, because we're not part of this random Facebook group with only 127 members that was created solely for the purpose of accommodating somebody who isn't even gender critical. Apparently that's the inner circle. Oh dear.
It took less than a day to realize.
Oh wow, that's a really good point from Lola. Like, he doesn't realize we often have fake names because we get death threats from his ilk. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Like, yeah, maybe they kind of knew it was a fake name, but they thought, well, this person's probably used a pseudonym because of the potential issues they could face.
I had been handed exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah, you're right. He infiltrated GC headquarters. Like, oh my god, yeah, that's it. I was hoping that the stronghold of some random Facebook group would never get infiltrated, but somehow it happened. And you would think, we had such a great strategy of keeping people out by literally making it a group that would just try to accept anybody they could.
On a rose gold platter. Several big...
I'd like you to react to Cops Hate Mo. Well, I'll add them to a list. Cops Hate Mo. Okay. They got a lot of videos. Okay. I might look at the how to know if you're non-binary video because I'm interested in that. I'm going to save it to a playlist. We'll see. I might not, just so there we go. They're on the list. That might not be everything by them, but it's interesting. And I like that interest. That's an interesting idea. How to know if you're non-binary. Like, how could you know if you're non-binary? All right. Is Ricky Gervais transphobic? J.K. Rowling's history of transphobia. Okay, this person's interesting. All right. Thanks for the content suggestion. This is very cringe.
Name anti-trans icons were in the group created for Carol, and apparently
What?
later realized I had been handed exactly what I was looking for on a rose gold platter. Several big name anti-trans icons were in the group created for Carol, and apparently they felt like this was a small enough or safe enough place to vent their other assorted bigotries. I was now in over 10 groups scattered throughout the transphobia spectrum, from casual noob to hardcore turf, and what I saw across the board, on average, was worse than even the worst thing I saw on the subreddits. I've sat in and observed all sorts of groups, anti-vaxxers.
I will say this, Megan Murphy, I haven't seen her like she's not, I very rarely remember to mention her as a gender critical personality.
Turfs, Zionists, homeopaths, bottoms, and I thought it likely that I would find here what I found there.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I'm afraid I wasn't on the group. I feel very legitimate.
There, a gaping hole, where their empathy should be. I was open to being pleasantly surprised by the members of these groups, but not banking on it. My hypothesis was that I would see similar levels of what you would find in most fringe ideology groups. Misinformation, shoddy pseudoscience, an us versus them mentality leaning towards open disdain, and a confidence in claims that are unsupported by even their own literature. And all of those things abounded. In fact, some of the same anti-vax Substack articles, opinion pieces, and sourceless infographics were being passed around in the same gender-critical groups. I even found a gender-critical anti-vaxxers group, so like, intersection.
I mean, it should also be pointed out that Facebook is peak boomer, right? So I'm not really like, it's not surprising that they would skew conservative on Facebook because it's a boomer site, right? And boomers generally skew conservative. So I'm not saying wait, I didn't actually wait, let me go back.
Things abounded. In fact, some of the same anti-vax Substack articles, opinion pieces, and sourceless infographics were being passed around in the same gender-critical groups.
Wait, where's the Zionist thing?
I even found a gender
I'm not gonna lie, like I went through a period of not actually looking at the screen because I was bored.
critical anti-vaxxers group, so like
Wait.
science groups. That I would see similar levels of what you would find in most fringe ideology groups. Misinformation, shoddy pseudoscience, an us versus them mentality leaning towards open disdain, and a confidence in claims that are unsupported by even their own literature. And all of those things abounded. In fact, some of the same anti-vax Substack articles, opinion pieces, and sourceless infographics were being passed around in this.
Where's the Zion? Everyone's talking about Zionism. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. Is it literally just before? Oh, great. Okay, let me.
A gaping hole, where their empathy should be. I was open to being pleasantly surprised by the members of these groups, but not banking on it. My hype a little.
Right.
was a small enough, safe enough place to vent their other assorted bigotries. I was now in over 10 groups scattered throughout the transphobia spectrum, from casual noob to hardcore turf, and what I saw across the board, on average, was worse than even the worst thing I saw on the subreddits. I've sat in and observed all sorts of groups: anti-vaxxers, turfs, Zionists, homeopaths, bottoms, and I thought
Oh, okay. Sorry, yeah, the Zionist thing. All right, that's interesting. Like, it's very, I mean, yeah, it's said with a lot of disdain.
that I would find here what I found there: a gaping hole where their empathy should be. I was oaking on you would find in most fringe ideology groups, and sounded sourceless around a gender-critical anti-vaxxers group. So, like, intersectionality is very, very valid, I guess. What I didn't expect to find was the absolutely devastating level of indoctrination and zealotry you'd find in most modern cults. A cult that comes complete with conspiracy theories that span the globe, like that there is a plot to destroy society through LGBTQ plus acceptance, some going as far as to believe that the end result of trans people existing is to make it so that humanity becomes another species altogether.
Half human.
Oh, like the transhumanism thing. Yeah, that's the thing. It's a very boring take because essentially you're saying, well, I went on this fringe, by the way, not the inner core, like you said. It's the opposite to the inner core. You went on this fringe Facebook group and found some quite fringe beliefs. So what, right? Like, what does this have to do with like J.K. Rowling or Graham Linehan or whoever else? I mean, I kind of would think also Megan Murphy, but again, I'm not sure because I don't really know that much about Megan Murphy because I don't really see much from her. But and if you click on the video, okay. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, like the trans, like I've heard like people bring up the transhumanism thing, and it's like, okay, that is a thing, but it's definitely a fringe belief. Like I'm aware of it, and like I never thought to myself, oh God, one person said something which sounds kind of like because for me, I mean, I know there's probably been people who like I know that there have been people who have commented on my videos like talking about the whole transhumanism thing, so maybe they're here right now. I'll say personally, I think the whole transhumanism like conspiracy thing is quite unbelievable. But I've never sat there and been like, oh God, what have I done? I've become part of such a crazy movement because like the majority of people don't seem to believe in that. And by the way, even if they did, so what? Like at the end of the day, like that doesn't make the gender critical beliefs wrong. It's like the best case scenario here, I guess, is that gender critical is like a correct belief that also happens to be believed by some people who believe in some crazy stuff as well. But so what?
Half machine. Zero rights.
The presence of these conspiracies is not all that surprising because that's what transphobia and transpanic are at their core: conspiracy theories. What shocked me is that these conspiracy theories were coming from the top, from respected members of their community, and that these claims were being made publicly and went largely unchallenged internally.
Well, so like Jennifer Bilek is the only person who says this, right? And yeah, like obviously you're going to have some people who say it, but it's not like a core part of gender critical ideas. Yeah, like nobody who's ever kind of defined gender critical has been like, oh yeah, and also there's a belief that they're trying to turn people into robots. There have been like some people, like Jennifer Bilek, as far as I know, the only person who's mentioned it. But yeah, whatever.
I prepared for, well, like, quite a lot of hateful comments, awful memes, boomer shit, and rage-inducing misinterpretation of data. I didn't prepare to see all of that go almost universally unexamined past the surface of it. As long as what they were reading confirmed their beliefs, it went undisputed nearly 100% of the time.
Oh my God, like this is so funny because like I'm always so shocked at how many times on like Twitter somebody will literally like, for example, like let's say I argue with someone on Twitter, they'll literally make like a self-contradictory argument or just like any old stupid argument, and yet reliably they just get like so many likes. So never mind ignoring, never mind unexamined, they'll literally just like it, even though it's completely meaningless and often self-contradictory and things like that. Like the TRAs are the real ones who love to just love and kind of just applaud the most nonsense claims. I mean, how many times people say, "Oh, trans science affirms," or sorry, science affirms trans identity, proves trans people are valid," and it's like that's of course, and then like how many of those people actually know what they even mean when they say that? None of them. Like they'll post some like the Scientific American article, which I don't know, like is that even like one of them? I mean, the funniest one is the one where like some like it's like puts DSDs on a spectrum, and then even the person who wrote the article clarified that they weren't meaning to say that sex is a spectrum. It was just like a graphical thing they were doing. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, there's definitely an article out there which lots of TRAs share, where even the author of the article has come out and said, "Hey, I wasn't saying that sex is a spectrum. Sex is a binary. I was just doing it as like an illustration of like kind of varieties within the binary. You know, I wasn't presenting it as a spectrum. It's something like that. I can't think who it is, but literally like that's the thing. That's how deep the wrongness of trans identity goes. Where they even have like the authors of articles they're sourcing saying it's wrong. Where you even have, I mean, my favorite example is Riley Grace Rochon, who is supposed to be like a kind of somebody who like does a lot of research, is kind of like a streamer who like has a whole one of those little research documents lots of streamers like to have, and yet Riley was reading a kind of Scientific American article about like the sex spectrum, and literally very conspicuously misinterpreted the information. It's something I cover in one of my videos. It's also something Rubble of Empire has covered too. Like even the people who present themselves like the researchers consistently totally misunderstand just the basic information that they're even presenting to enforce their arguments. And yet, these people always get likes from, all of the fans because, of course, even though what they're saying is complete nonsense, it's affirming their belief. It's saying that trans identity is valid. And yeah, I've seen like TRAs say like even contradictory things, but as long as they affirm trans identity, it's fine.
even when it was completely false. So the gender critical activist groups had a familiar pattern to them. Someone would post something like this, intended to make everyone angry, disgusted, and uncomfortable. And then people would comment about how angry, disgusted, and uncomfortable they were. They would comment on how those feelings of disgust are not a reflection of their own bias, but rather were harm being caused to them by the unknowing and unconsenting target of their rage and ridicule. Healthy, right? Some of the anti-trans activist comments were downright malevolent.
Next, I will be saying a trans woman. Okay.
But the parent groups, way scarier to me. There's something so unnerving about someone dehumanizing and abusing a child out of love. Because you know that you can't use rationality or empathy to persuade them to stop. It's difficult to reason people out of positions they didn't reason themselves into.
Gender critical people don't reason themselves. I'm sorry. Like, that's just the lack of self awareness, goodness me.
These groups are, on average, less explicit about their disgust for trans people, though that could just be attributed to the nature of the groups themselves. These weren't like the other groups, which functioned almost entirely as a hatred circle jerk between regular members. In the parent groups, there were too many new people, too many outsiders coming through. Which makes sense. After all, not every child that...
But this is so contradictory, because if the point's supposed to be like, well, the new people, but then according to you, literally, like, you immediately made one post and were, like, immediately accepted into one of these groups. So if these groups are supposed to be some big secret, well, it's not a very well-kept secret, is it? It's just so much... This story just is very... There's a lot of holes in this story.
that questions their gender is trans or non-binary. Not all parents continue to have concerns over whether their child is
Hello, Amanda.
really trans. Kids grow up. Kids cut off their abusive parents. So this rotation into the group was one of impressionable outsiders with little to no understanding of trans identities. But they'd found the group through a Facebook search. They were ostensibly coming into this blind. This created a very different dynamic in the parent groups than the activist groups, and it took me a while to nail down that pattern. What was really noticeable was the emotional state of the people who arrived in the group. That intense vulnerability of people in need, hoping to find help and community, something I'm very familiar with. The uncertainty in their feelings that...
Well, it's all well and good that you shared a link, but I'm not gonna lie. We're literally like 5 minutes away from my battery running out of camera, which is somebody actually linked me to exactly the thing I need to get, which is a dummy battery, and I keep forgetting, putting it off. I also only recently bought a present for my friend's birthday, which I'm banking on like arriving on time tomorrow. Sorry, birthday, wedding. Um,
Cognitive dissonance.
there is no reason to believe sex roles / gender is wrong. Vanera says, well, you have very little understanding of the gender critical position too. Yeah, Leica, yeah, I know, thanks. Yeah, I always say battery running out of camera.
Driving them to seek answers and find the truth. These people were putting out a call to help to other parents, scared that they were losing their child. It's completely understandable. And it's a shame that the people who answered that call were sex purists and charlatans, many of whom were cut off by their own children, some even publicly accused of abusing their children. Shame that the parents who responded barely even deserve the title.
Okay, you know what? I think we need to stop because we've got 2 hours left. And sorry, we're 2 hours in. And I think 2 hours is a good length anyway. I mean, we're at an hour and 55. But I will say that, yeah, and literally the recruitment techniques thing. I'm late for the stream as per usual. Yep, you're very late because I literally just said I was about to stop. I mean, to be fair, I say I'm about to stop. Yeah, cheaper and more expensive. Yeah, I mean, the only issue is, so the thing is, this was something I already looked into. The camera's going to run out of battery soon. But I looked into it once, and the thing is, like, some of them weren't the right voltage, and I was like, is that a problem? And then people said, yes, it is. It can destroy your camera. So I don't know. But yeah, I would happily spend like a decent amount as long as it actually works. Because yeah, it would be nice to not have to worry about it running out of battery if I want to go over. Yeah. About to stop means he's got 2 more hours to go. No, because I'm not going to watch. I mean, I don't know. See, I'm not sure if you're making a joke about the fact that sometimes I'll say I'm about to stop a stream and then I don't, or alternatively, the fact that the video's way long, way long. Night night, Emily. Where? Yeah, but yeah, we it makes sense to stop here, seeing as we're on recruitment techniques. Yeah, so far, I mean, this is pretty lame. Do you want to know what? Okay, thought terminating cliches, manufacturing fear, recruiting parents, recruiting the gays, my very gay trauma, skip point here, manufacturing disgust, skip point here, trans men, skip point here, closing. That's fun. Yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I do think actually a lot of the stuff which is just like, first of all, very kind of narrative, but also highly speculative. Just like, well, they're doing this, and they're probably doing it for this reason. It's probably some massive, intentionally like bringing people in to convince them of these crazy ideas. It's just like there's not really much point taking that seriously. So, right, I think. Like you're acting as if I know anything about this. A lot of power supplies these days are auto switching between 100/240. Whatever. I don't know. That doesn't mean anything to me. Wait. Let me tell you. What if I? Wait a minute. How do I look? Oh, I think I have to take the battery out, which I could actually do. You know what? Okay, screw it. We're doing. Okay. I will say this, the camera's not as blurry as it used to be back in the day. Here's the camera. For those who don't know or don't remember, so this is how I make it so that the autofocus disappears. I put this over this, and it holds it down. holds down a button. And I don't think it damages the camera because it's not very tight. I mean, who knows? It's so hot. Having like a hot battery. I'm confused because you say 240 volts. Now here's my problem, okay. This says, oh, there's no way that's showing up. Wait, is it? I can't. 3.6 volts is what it says. Now I would say 3.6 volts seems like it's a lot more. Hey, Leica. Ah, that's cool that you know. Oh my lord, Leica. You know, actually, that might be an option. I do feel a little bit intimidated at the prospect of meeting somebody in real life for once in my life. I see. Okay. Oh, see, I'm exposing how much I don't know anything about technology. Like I know nothing because it's just one of those things which I don't need to know. So yeah. So my question is, how do I make it so the dummy battery won't explode my camera into 1,000 pieces? That's the only question I have in life. It's the only thing I value. The only thing that would truly make me happy. Not exploding my camera into 1,000,000 pieces. Can't believe I've got 48 viewers. I feel bad. Like, I feel bad leaving when I've got so many viewers, which I am going to leave soon. Because, I don't know. I mean, I could just, I don't know, buy a new camera. Well, that's not going to be fun, is it? I'll buy a new camera if you give, like, £400 on Patreon. I think that's a fair exchange. Actually, well, this camera is a gift from my fiance, a Christmas present. So, okay. You know what, Leica? I think what I'll do, seeing as I have you on my Gilded, is continue this conversation with you at a later point because, you know, this is going to be boring for everyone else. So I'm going to say good night, everybody. Don't let those rooty toot tooting bed bugs bite. Don't let the people turn you into the transhumanists turn you into a robot, and don't let Carol Carbonara do something, or what is it? Carol Marlboro cigarettes. Trick you into accidentally being homophobic or something. All right, bye.